So, I'm now recording a video for yesterday, Sunday. This is from a year ago. I'm entering the 5783 year. So, sorry, entering the 5784 year now. Something to note, I've for sure mentioned this many times, but the Jewish year follows since Adam and Eve were born, which is interesting to say because Adam came from the earth and Eve came from Adam. So, but we will say that's when they started. And so we don't follow like some arbitrary number based on anyone else, based on 2024, which nobody, like common error, right? No, we go by the Jewish calendar. So 5784. Right before 5784, there's a recommendation by the Lubavitcher Rebbe to do part A, which is how did I do this past year, which this year is about to complete 5784. We're about to start 5785 in less than a month. We already finished 1 week. We just finished 1 week. So now 3 more weeks, it will be the new year, the day of Adam and Chava, a new year. But the world was created a week before. Adam and Chava were born on the 6th day into the 7th day. So we are commemorating, in 2 weeks will be the new year of all the world. In 3 weeks will be the new year of the Jewish New Year, which really starts from Chava and from Adam and Chava. So starting from Rosh Chodesh Elul, which means it's something to do in the first month, in the month right before the first day of the new year, which is Elul. That's this month. This month is all about preparation and healing and growing and rectifying and becoming a more true, perfect, refined, perfect. I mean, being enough, not being perfect, but like being the real self, being who we were supposed to be, that no one else could ever be, that God wants to be through us. That you were born a Jew, you were born brown skin, beige skin, you were born, tall, short. You had to be that. Stop trying to be someone else, kind of thing. So part A, how did I do this past year? When I wrote this last year, it was for 5783. Part B, what do I plan to do for the 5784 year? It would be for the future year, which was this past year. So it's interesting to do this because you could look back and read it. So I used to go on the roof every day I used to live in a different building. I moved 1 week ago. This is my new apartment. I'm now doing these videos for my new place, but which I've been in 1 week. So I used to go on the roof every day, but I eventually stopped. This was in the old building. There was a roof with sunlight. I don't mean just sunlight, but there was a roof with like no one above. There was open space. I was on a 6th floor, so I used to just go 1 floor up. Okay, so let's talk about the past year. So that was what I used to do. Then I had started fully keeping the Sabbath to the best of my ability at the time. Of course, I make mistakes when I look back. Kosher. I stopped going to indoor gatherings that are mixed men and women, fraternizing. I got mezuzahs, new mezuzahs. There was one or two, but I made sure to get for each doorway and to update. I started being careful with Shomer Negiah, which is to guard your touch from men. So this is to prevent premarital sex, but really I let a man named David hug me twice, touch my thigh, and like my hip. He kissed me without my permission. And then Yaakov, I really allowed him first to touch my hair and touch me all over and hug me. And it became everything but sex. He was really, really touching me. This is last summer. And then Michael, a few times, mild touch, just like healing touch. But I was making sure that, so David, it was very short, just a couple times that I let him hug me or touch me or lay next to me, leaning against me or hold me. Yaakov, it became, from him wanting to touch my hair and touch my body, it became a sexual energy. So I messed up there. And you could call it like a summer fling, but really I thought he was going to want to marry me. He moved to Israel, and it turns out he always planned to do that. It was a big, hard thing for me. And then Michael, I've known for over 2.5 years. And so there were times where I would help him, like when he was in the hospital. I helped like healing touch, helped his body. A few times helped him walk when he couldn't walk. So I started saying Tehillim, the Psalms daily, which I think I did before, but I don't think I was consistent about every day. I started saying certain portions every day to match, and also the Chitas, which is the Chumash, which is from the scripture, the Old Testament, Tehillim, and Tanya, adding a daily kapitel for me, which is my daily kapitel, and also for the Rebbe and Rebbetzin, and actually have added a lot more since then, but just saying, I also wouldn't be alone with a man except when Michael, who left the hospital, came to stay by me. He was shot twice, and I added lots of daily learning of Torah, went to 770 very often. Unfortunately, my bike got stolen. I started with the e-bikes. I got City Bike. I started working as a companion for Shana, I don't know if I should say her last name, Vogel in Bar Park. She lives at Ohel residence. I became close for a while with Steve Cohen. I thought maybe he was my Cohen. We don't talk anymore. I continued to smoke weed and tobacco until the winter, and I stopped completely. Yeah, by springtime, it's been over a year and a few months now. I do, at that time, I don't do it now. I would read the entire siddur, the prayer book, for the whole morning prayers, but I would do it at some point during the day, not always in the morning. It took me an hour for sure, sometimes more. I don't do it that way anymore. Now I pray in a different way. Journaling, art, YouTube videos, this project I was doing, singing and dancing every day, meditating. I raised it to 42 minutes. And last year I was very rigid about doing it sitting quiet. Now I sort of do music, stretching, walking, different things. I started visiting. I don't do it anymore, except I did it once the other day. The Rebbe of Crown Heights, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, his house and his room. He passed away. Like his soul left his body in the physical world. Some people say they still see him and they're connected with him, to each their own. But the house is still there, so you could go connect with him. His house and the room is like his office. His office by 770. I started writing down messages from spirit guides. I was almost done typing my first book. It's a workbook, but for the last year I've had so much writer's block. I felt I was not welcomed into Engelson Shul, Chevra Shul, my family. I stopped being friends with a lot of men that I was friends with before. I stopped exercising and eating right. I gained over 30 pounds. I would say now it's over 50 pounds. I gave up on Mashiach for a while. I had many doubts, felt suicidal and alone, and eventually got my light starting again. Now, I want to go back to the three men. David, I thought he would marry me. I let him, it was never skin to skin. I let him hug, caress, pet me, stroke me like a pet, really. And Yaakov, I said I thought we'd marry. I let him touch me, joined in sensual affection, and then, like I said, it became touch and exchange, became skin to skin. We did everything but basically have sex. Like, that's how it became kind of. For Michael, aside for a hug, it was only non-sensual, non-sexual, that I could remember, not even touching at all, possibly, if I remember. Okay, continuing. Tznius, in many ways, tznius is modesty in clothing. I became like, the rules, or quote-unquote rules, is elbows covered, basically not to have cleavage showing, not the chest, to kind of cover the knees, not to wear pants, but to wear like skirts or dresses, not to sing and dance in front of men, not to wear too much bright colors like red. I continue to give tithing and charity and supporting Michael. It's been over 30 months that I know him. He was homeless when I met him, and he's been on and off. He stayed by me. We tried to be in a relationship. I became careful that I didn't want to be with him anymore, uncircumcised non-Jewish men. I sacrificed him and David in my life. David was not healthy for me. And then I redeemed them. I sacrificed the relationships. I walked through, I felt Lilith, she's called the mother of the demons, but she's really like the first Eve. Says she was, Kabbalistic story, the mystical story is that she was rejected by Adam. Amalek, which is, they hate the Jews. They were like a descendant of Timnah. She was not wanted. She was not loved by the patriarchs, and so she went and was with Esav's family. She wanted to be someone with Abraham, and so Jacob's family they didn't let her, so she went with Esav's family, and she was a concubine, and she ended up having a child, and built into his genes he hated the Jews. And then Paro, who enslaved the Jews. I felt I walked through those. I wrote down messages from those spirit guides, continued. I continued to keep writing that. I rededicated my life to God and to the mission of Mashiach, of light, and I gave up my personal life, connected with the Geula generation group of women. I mean, I don't do that anymore. And then Shea Benos Chabad, sometimes I do it. Pushed off moving to Israel, but finally decided I want to get married and have kids. I became friends with Pinchas and stopped being friends with Pinchas. We had like an interesting friendship. There was a little flavor of flirtation sometimes, but he had a lot of baggage for, he had 6 kids, I think. The wife, they were divorced. She accused him of abuse, and I felt he had anger, he had viciousness somewhere buried deep. I went to the mikveh once, the immersion, and the next time I tried to go, they didn't let me. I used to go to a Wednesday night chill and a Thursday night chill, and this is like mixed groups, gathering music and food, but eventually I stopped spending time that way, and I also stopped spending so much time in Prospect Park after Michael got shot. But however, I'll say now I go all the time, but in totally different areas. Now I used to go almost every day into that certain area. I'll stop here, and we'll do part B, what I plan to do for 5784, which was this past year. However, the great way to think about this is that you could do this for yourself for the upcoming year. So you can start thinking about how I did this past year and what I plan to do for 5784. 5785 in 3 weeks.